I have been asked what God the Father is. Consciousness, love. In the scriptures there is a beginning and an end. This means the Creator was outside what he created. All that is within the created we see as atoms forming life, the earth and stars on out to a limit where astronomers can see. Scientists are dominated by a restriction which requires no spiritual explanation. Basically, this is the Communist Manifesto in all things. In other words, no God. Edwin Hubble of the Mount Wilson Observatory. The origin of the Big Bang Theory is credited to him. He was an American and an idiot. He spoke with an English accent. His idea was to sound more scientific. He deduced the universe is continually expanding, a conclusion based on his observation that light is moving away from the Earth, called the red shift, meaning light is moving away from us faster than the speed of light. Now this destroys Einstein's constant speed of light, a fact that scientists have never mentioned as far as I have observed. There are 5 spheres of red shift, with space in between. The 5 is the signature of God the Father, as the number 5 is Abba, and why we have 5 fingers and 5 toes per hand and feet, or 2 arms, 2 legs, and head. Or the Great Pyramid height of 5,813 pyramid inches divided by 5 just happens to be 1162.6, which is the age that I married Lucifer's choice in weeks, and the antechamber width of 116.26 pyramid inches. The marriage, of course, was on April the 23rd, 1966. 1966 number in the Hebrew Strong's Concordance is the number for Lucifer. So Yah was 1162.6 weeks old, which is 22.28 years, and that leads off into a whole other direction. But let's stick to Hubble. Hubble observed the distance to the redshift is proportional to the distance it is further from the Earth. The more the redshift, the further away. This indicated that the galaxies farthest away should be underdeveloped or embryonic, being 20 billion light years away, assuming they had evolved from hydrogen dust. But the Hubble Space Telescope found the distant galaxies were the same as those close by, in other words, fully developed. The Hubble telescope had studied the darkest region on the window of Pegasus for 11 days, receiving out of the blackness faint light, revealing fully formed galaxies. Inadvertently, Hubble proved creation, as the stars and galaxies are all moving away from the Earth in all directions. The centre of the universe is the Earth. I was born 2,824 weeks and 6 days after Edwin Hubble. In addition, Hubble was reluctant to attribute to God and came up with the Big Bang Theory, which is an insane idea of how the universe was self-creating out of nothing. But all redshift galaxies form a sphere round the Earth. The first sphere, a known observation, followed by 4 more spreading out farther and faster in the redshift, showing the speed of light speeding up. Therefore, the Earth, by observation, is the centre of the universe and is the oldest place in the entire universe. My age difference to Hubble, the 2524 weeks, the number is found in Psalms 18:11, quoting, "He made darkness," 2524, "his secret place. His pavilion round about him were dark waters and thick clouds of the skies." Now the number of the verse 18:11 is found in Job 16:20, quoting, "My friends scorn me, but mine eye poureth out," is the 18:11, tears unto God. We see the astronomers and cosmologists are locked into recording accurately the time frame based on calculations determined by background radiation, heat, and assumed speed of light being a constant speed. Yet the distances show 10 to the minus 43 and then 10 to the minus 32 in time, and then out to 3 minutes, jumping up to 300,000 years, 1 billion, and then 15 billion years for 5 time frames. Again, 5 is Abba in the Greek concordance. So here it is, the Big Bang Theory. Now, I want you to think about this for a moment. Just think, Yara and I actually did this. I was able to blink 31 times within 10 seconds by Yara's counting. Now here they can, just think about this. They can measure 1 divided by 10 to the 43. That's 43 zeros. So this is 1 divided by 10 with 43 zeros after it. Do you know what size of a particle that is? This is the insanity of how they're able to come up with these figures. However, it's all in the numbers. It's not so much the mathematics of it all, because it is absolutely impossible, but it's the numbers that they come up with. So that's what we're looking at. So this is the Big Bang Theory that has us present day 15 billion years old. So Yah says, what part of this nonsense has the constant speed of light got to do with the vast distances that astronomers who are seeing the redshift being faster than the speed of light, they concluding the outer galaxies are 15 billion years away at the Einstein speed of light, which is approximately 186,282 miles per second. So they want to have it both ways, saying that the far distances are out over halfway in 3 minutes, and then the final redshift 15 billion light years. So we go from 3 minutes to 15 billion light years in this nonsensical calculations they're supposed to have figured out of dividing 1 by 10 with 43 zeros after it. You try and do it. Get your calculator out. Like, hello? Is it more logical that God, who is the consciousness enveloping all time, light, atoms and matter within himself, created the universe at the same moment, like bubbles forming in a bottle of soda water? What happens when one takes off the cap, releasing the pressure? It instantly forms bubbles within the liquid, saturating universally all of the liquid in a moment of time, even 10 to the minus 43 seconds. Therefore, Psalms 18:11, quoting again, he made darkness his secret place, his pavilion round about him were dark waters and thick clouds of the skies. So we see that the astronomers and cosmologists are locked into recording accurately the time frame based on calculation determined by etc. The speed of light at constant static. Okay, all right, so we've just gone over that. Let's skip to the next one. Here it is again. So time begins, and the time is 10. Right, think about this. When they say time 10 to the minus 43 seconds, take 1, write it down on a piece of paper. 1 divided by 10 with 43 zeros behind it, and that's what they're able to count that. And then, so now time is growing out to 10 to the minus 32, so it is 1 divided by 10 with 32 zeros after it, and then we're getting older at 1 divided by 10 with 6 zeros after it, etc. So that's 1 second there, you can see, and then the 3 minutes takes off, and then suddenly we're up to 15 billion years. I don't think so. However, the numbers. Luke 1:19, and the angel answering said unto him, I am Gabriel, that stand in the presence of God, and am sent to speak unto thee, and to show thee these glad tidings. Now the number 1043 is Gabriel, the archangel. Reading Luke 1:26, and in the 6th month the angel Gabriel was sent from God unto a city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin espoused to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David, and the virgin's name was Mary. So What is important again is not the calculations, it's the numbers. 10:43, Gabriel, the archangel. So we've got reaching 3 minutes is Abaddon, and 9:11. That's the 10:8. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name is the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon. So in the Greek concordance, the number 3 for 3 minutes is Abaddon, of Hebrew origin 11, a destroying angel, Abaddon. Now Isaiah 22:22, and the key of the house of David will I lay upon his shoulder, so he shall open and none shall shut, and he shall shut and none shall open. This is of course referring to Yah. Nobody else can do what he has revealed all of these years. So God through Isaiah is predicting the key of the genetic lineage of David will save the world. We know the wonders of life have been revealed in the double helix of cells in all life. Once knowledge is increased, we also know the self-chosen elite will suppress knowledge. Jesus quotes, we also know money is the root of all evil, and we see in the protocols of the learned elders of Zion how they have done it and forbid Christ. The original peaceful inhabitants of the Canaanite worship Asherah and Yahweh. In the Bible story, the descendants of Satana, India, expelled by the righteous neighbours for their practices of debauchery. By comparison, the inhabitants of Sodom would be envious, and their actions pale to insignificance. The inhabitants of Satana practiced child rape, blood sacrifice, drinking blood, similar to the hidden religion of the West. Then reaching Babylon, it was they who developed the Torah and later the Talmud, synagogue of Satan. The worship of Asherah in the Bible has been eliminated as follows. The women worship Asherah and Yahweh, erecting pure white poles surrounding the altar to Yahweh on hilltops and mountains. The Asherah poles were destroyed, and the reference to these poles have been changed to groves and found in 24 verses. And it shows a relentless attack on the women and the burning of the poles and the thousands of Asherah dolls. And the first mention is in Exodus, and the verse number itself is a trap. But ye shall destroy their altars, break their images, and cut down their groves. However, in the Greek concordance, 34:13 is Michael, the archangel, and Yah's blood. So we've got more Babylonian fiction found in Deuteronomy 7:5. But thus shall ye deal with them, ye shall destroy their altars, and break down their images, and cut down their groves, and burn their graven images with fire. For thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God, now, in the brackets there, we're speaking about the god Lucifer, hath chosen thee to be a special people unto himself, above all people that are upon the face of the earth. The Lord did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were in number, more in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all people. But because the Lord loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, hath the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. Now this is all Lucifer speaking. The Lord did not set his... All right, so here we see the chosen people are confirmed in Deuteronomy via the invention of the Egyptian bondage and salvation myth. Their God is the modern Freemason Baphomet, leading them out of Egypt. Lucifer, the reference to Lucifer and Satan, etc., is all a guise, really. The God of the Jews is Baphomet. Now, this is where the idea of Jesus on the cross insults his enemies, being an image. The same applies to the Shroud of Turin, which they tried to burn in 1532 on December the 4th. I was conceived 410 years later. 410 in the Hebrew Concordance is El, God, Emmanuel, mighty God. Reading from Isaiah 7:14, as you know, a very significant verse in all of Yah's measuring. Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel. Number 6005 in the Hebrew Concordance from 5973 and 410. God with us, Emmanuel. So here is the distance in time from the attempted burning of the Shroud of Turin until Yah's conception date. 410.3 years. 410 is God, and in the Greek concordance Pontikos, meaning born. So we have a pattern that all universities are dominated by the same Freemason God. Likewise, all churches are Freemason. The attempted burning of the Shroud of Turin was a desperate attempt. The reality is the devil is real and knows it is me on the shroud, my soul. Call it Lucifer or Satan, it is all demonic. It just has several names in order to confuse. Solomon was Lucifer in the flesh, doing the bidding of and he was the reincarnate of Nimrod, who was Lucifer in the flesh. The Ark of Noah in Turkey is now a museum. Solomon and Nimrod as Lucifer were doing the work of Baphomet. The Christian and Muslim world is devoured by the Lucifer Bible Quran translations. So both the Bible and the Quran have been infiltrated. Deuteronomy 12:3, and ye shall overthrow their altars and break their pillars and burn their groves, again referring to the replacement of Asherah with groves, the Asherah poles with groves. Burn their groves with fire, and ye shall hew down the graven images of their gods and destroy the names of them out of that place. Ye shall not do so unto the Lord your God. Or 1 Kings 14:15, for the Lord shall smite Israel as a reed is shaken in the water, and he shall root up Israel out of this good land, which he gave to their fathers, and shall scatter them beyond the river, because they have made their groves, provoking the Lord to anger. So over and over, the Jews' God is yapping on and on. But what does the gospel say? Now the following is complex. We speak of demonic forces. The Western world is devoured by, peeling back the multiple layers. We see it in the Vatican with Francis and the demonic Jesuit. The cheers from Jerusalem as they hail the US Embassy and the imminent rebuilding of Solomon's Temple. In fact, it is already in pieces in South Africa, the finest sandstone quarried in Lesotho, the temple on rail cars ready for shipping to the port of East London, then by ship to Tel Aviv. Yah has seen the rail cars. So, now this was sent to us by one of ours who has been doing incredible work and tying it all together to explain. I mean, Yah has been saying for years, but this is tying it all together. The God of the Jews is Baphomet. Yah, no, this is a direct quote from an email. Yah has mentioned before in one of his videos that Baphomet is the Holy Spirit versus Yah being the Holy Ghost. So his imagery is everywhere, layered in lies upon lies. His presence is laced in all things and manners of corruption, all seeking the purity. Now, I want you to get this. This is really important, then you will understand. As you know, God is not about, Yah is not at all about equality. Hello? However, all seeking the purity of equality, all things being equal, man, woman, beast, adult, child, ugliness and beauty, the races. This is the promotion. All things being equal. That is so anti-Christ. It is all drowning, so this is the practices of all those who espouse everything as equal. It is all drowning in pleasure and putting sex at the forefront to break things down into oblivion. Luciferian cults hide him in plain sight, all while pointing at Satan or Lucifer, whom have been nothing more than pawns in the grand scheme of things. Lucifer himself, Solomon, as he was back then, and Nimrod before, via reincarnation, had sought to perform Baphomet's bidding and can be culminated. So, again, state of things today throughout all of the nations, the JWO can be culminated as communism, all things being equal for all creation. The centre of the Canaanite pantheon is he, yet they point to him not. All their human sacrifice, the blood libel, all of it points directly at the debauchery that Baphomet represents. And then Isaiah 34:13, so there's your Michael hello, Archangel Michael number again. However, what is it saying? It mentions the word satyr, calling out to its mate, but the original word that was used here was lilim. Quoting, "And the thorns shall come up in her palaces, nettles and brambles in the fortresses thereof, and it shall be an habitation of dragons and a court for owls." And of course the US dollar and the owl. Everybody knows about it nowadays. Reading verse 14, "The wild beasts of the desert shall also meet with the wild beasts of the island, and the satyr shall cry to his fellow. The screech owl also shall rest there and find for herself a place of rest." Now, lilim was the term used for succubus at the time. However, a satyr is a bit more specific. The incubus, as it was supposedly a male counterpart to the succubus, but it isn't quite so. The incubus is a satyr, an abomination that is what happens when a fertility genie or jinn, the lilim, devotes itself entirely and surrenders itself to Baphomet entirely. So can we think about the Clinton administration, the Obama administration, all of those involved? But this is thousands of years old. There's nothing new under the sun, but putting it in today's perspective and knowing what these people have been into, you can grasp the depravity of what these people are capable of, giving themselves over to Baphomet. Male and female, they are lost entirely to the void. They are what causes the gay community to act in the fashion that they do. Essentially, they're the spiritual equivalent to the transsexual, never satisfied and always seeking newer and more horrendous ways to reach that next climax. The war in the mind drives many of these people to suicide, never understanding why. Sex and pleasure is the easiest method to corrode someone's mind. So slowly but surely these fertility spirits were led astray, hearing an endless call that is illustrated in the Songs of Solomon, Song of Solomon, written in absolute state of madness. So we're talking about early April this year. Isaac explained the following about the true nature of the Thule group. In 1919, following the end of World War I, the Thule group was formed in order to study branding methods to unify the people against the beast that they saw forming. They had focused on the swastika as the emblem, as it is the global symbol that swears allegiance to the Almighty Creator. You would understand now why Adolf Hitler himself has been the most, apart from Jesus, been the most demonized man in history by the lovely people. And you'll remember too, it'll be still out there probably on Andrew's channel, the PowerPoint that we did several years ago now about the swastika, the ancient swastika being the symbol for Yahweh used by the prophets. Midway through their research in the mid-1920s, they caught onto a snag and their focus shifted. A Lilam had been caught and questioned. This led them to shift focus onto the spiritual root that was destroying their people. We're talking about the German people and what turned Berlin into New Babylon so quickly. The dark arts were acquired. The dark research led their minds on the God of the Jews and their debauchery, Baphomet. By 1933, Baphomet was summoned and then torn to pieces by angels that were brought in for the task, and yet the beast wouldn't die. They didn't have the authority to slay him in the name of God, as Christ had not yet returned. So this is 11 years before Yah's rebirth. So they sealed away his body parts and disbanded their efforts, sealing away their records to be burned on the request of Adolf Hitler himself. Only shortly thereafter did Germany truly prosper, but not without notice of the Rothschilds and their ilk, after they found out what happened to their God. I think it was 1978. There's photographs you can still see today on the internet of masquerade party that the Rothschilds have, and just look for it. And the wearing of the mask of Baphomet, and just sick, sick, sick. And so Judea declared war on Germany in 1933. And you know what happened after that. After Berlin fell, the Jews collected Baphomet's parts and scattered them around the world to be hidden, only to be brought back to Jerusalem when the third temple was to be finalized and created, so their God could dwell in that place forever and ever. However, there's a catch. You know that demon that swore fealty to Yahweh on April the 1st and fight on his behalf? Yeah. Kuyanging Christ, KK, is the sacrificial red bull that they so desire, and the bride of Baphomet had departed from him forever, swearing her allegiance to the earth mother Asherah once more. I'd like to just go back in time to 2010. Yah and I, our first trip to Fiji, we were there for 6 weeks, and it was I'm fairly certain it was December the 21st, yes, 2010, again a blood red supermoon, the first in its kind after something like 450 years. However, the big whoop-de-doo was that Oprah Winfrey, who is a known Satanist, she had been in Australia. She flew over to Australia, did a program there, and then she was flying a bunch of people either back to America or anyway, the bottom line is we were told by the FBI agent who was with us, she was, and this is a fact, the whole island knew this, that she was to spend, I think, 2 or 3 nights. She was stopping off on this tiny, tiny island, which was owned by the guy who owns the Red Bull company. And that the charge per night is $26,000 US to stay there. Now, this is one really tiny island amongst the 333 islands of the Fijian Islands. And we were told that it would be for certain that they would be doing their child napping and blood sacrifice, their rituals of some child. Anyway, the bottom line is that we ended up sending a fax to Major Rokaura that we had already met, the right-hand man for Frank Bainimarama, and we told him what may go down on the island and to send troops over there to scour the island, just have a presence there to try and prevent whatever it is that Oprah would be spending $26,000 per night to be partaking in. Anyway, just that's anecdotal. So this Isath Zenumim is no more. She's long discarded that name and was given a new name by Heavenly Father, Amadin, which in Latin means worthy of God. Now, this is work that has been ongoing for months now, the work of redemption. So Yah says, the succubus through my disciples, and coincidentally not our disciple whose name just happens to be Michael. So the succubus through my disciples that came seeking redemption, as well as the omission of details that I was not prepared to discuss at the time. She was known as Isath Zenunim, which means woman of whoredom, and she was the true author of the Songs of Solomon. Modern Christians call her the Bride of Christ, whenever they seldom reference that particular book. However, it's a bit different, and that is the concern of this email. She was intended to be a bride, all right, but it was to be for the God of this world. You know his name. It's not Lucifer, it's Baphomet. So Yah continues with, that was the Michael's email, but Solomon is 666 twice in the Bible. And that was the amount of gold that came to him via his Ammonite and Moabite wives, which is where the sacrifice to Moloch came in, and via the children of his wives that genetically to Cain. Solomon had 700 wives and 300 concubines, and the children married into the 10 tribes, later falling to Assyria in 722 BC, then shipped by boat to Spain.